Good evening. Welcome to the Board of Education meeting for Greeley Evans School District 6. Today is January 9th. This meeting will now come to order. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Lemon, will you call a roll for us, please?
Director Bentley?
Present.
Director Campos-Fitzy? Present. Director Mash? Present. Director Matthews?
Present.
Director Norwood?
Present.
Director Pappas?
Present.
Director Sullivan?
Present.
All board members present.
Thank you, Ms. Lemon. Before we go any further in our meeting, I would like to invite Mr. Corliss to come forward. He has some announcements for our board meeting room. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Wade Corliss. I'm the Assistant Director of Safety and Security for District 6 schools. I would like to welcome all community members, District 6 staff, and the Board of Education. I'm addressing you today due to some recent boardroom behavior which was not appropriate and disrupted the work of the Board of Education. One of my jobs as the Assistant Director of Safety and Security at District 6 schools is to keep the boardroom secure for the Board of Education, District 6 staff, and all community members attending this meeting. Please be mindful of your behavior and treat others with the same respect that you would like to receive yourself. The expectations for behavior in this boardroom are the same expectations we have for students who attend Greeley Evans District 6 schools. Orderly conduct for Board of Education meetings is clearly outlined in our board docs BEDH-R, which is available to the public on the Greeley Evans District 6 website. For the safety and security of everyone attending the Board of Education meetings, we have increased security measures within the District 6 administration building. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Corliss. And so I will say again, welcome to the Board of Education meeting for Greeley Evans School District 6. We're so glad that you are here. If you are here in person, we're glad that you're here. If you're joining us online, I will keep my comments tonight brief, and that's because there might be something that you guys want to see other than a board meeting tonight. I know that's applicable to at least some of you. And so I will keep my comments brief. I do want to first apologize. It is warm in this room. This building is not well regulated with respect to heat or cold. And sometimes we walk in and it's cold, and sometimes we walk in and it's hot. And tonight it is hot. I do apologize for that. I only really have one announcement tonight that I want to draw your attention to. And that is something that's happening at Greeley West this weekend, and that is a show, Matilda. This is, and I will state that we lost a lot in COVID. As you just heard, we lost a lot of civility during COVID, and our students especially lost a lot during COVID, and students missed shows, students missed in-person graduation. Students missed out on a lot, especially in the spring of 2020. This show, Matilda, was originally scheduled for March of 2020. And they have saved all the props, all the sets, all the costumes. They saved everything. It's sat in the old Greeley West for a year. They moved all of that. I think most everybody knows that Greeley West has a new facility recently, got a new facility recently. So they saved all of that, moved it all over to the new building, and they are doing that show this weekend. So one, it is a great redemption story for students that planned to do a show, got canceled, and are now finally getting to do that 2 years or 3 years, almost 3 years later. Two, it is a great way to see the new facility at Greeley West, and this is a spectacular theater that they'll be performing in. And so I invite everyone, whether you're in the room or if you are watching this online, to please come watch our students at Greeley West. And those are all my announcements for tonight. To move forward, we need to approve an agenda.
I would actually like to make a motion to amend the agenda. So I move that the Board of Education of Greeley Evans School District 6 amends the agenda format as follows. Number 4, special items, board comments and reports, superintendent's report, public participation, consent agenda, board priorities, and adjournment. So that's just switching the order of the special items and the board comments and reports.
Okay, you've heard the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you both. Is there any discussion on this motion? Ms. Mash, I think I understand you simply want to move board member comments and reports closer to the superintendent's report, correct?
Yes, that's correct. I just would love to get to our students and the celebrations that we have as the first thing this semester.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion on the motion? Seeing none, Ms. Lemon, will you give us a vote, please?
Director Bentley?
Aye.
Director Campos-Fitzy?
Aye.
Director Mash?
Aye.
Director Matthews?
Aye.
Director Norwood?
Aye.
Director Pappas?
Aye.
Director Sullivan?
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you, Ms. Lemon.
So I think now we need to vote on the agenda. Is that correct? So I can.
I'm not sure that is correct, Ms. Mash. I think we just approved the agenda as follows. Is that correct or no? Do we still need to vote on the motion?
Yes, please,
The
to
agenda, okay.
vote on it.
All right.
I move that the Board of Education of Greeley Evans School District 6 approves the agenda as presented.
Second.
Thank you both. Any discussion on the agenda? Hearing none, Ms. Lemon, will you give us another vote, please?
Director Bentley?
Aye.
Director Campos-Fitzy?
Aye.
Director Mash?
Aye.
Director Matthews?
Aye.
Director Norwood?
Aye.
Director Pappas?
Aye.
Director Sullivan?
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you, Ms. Lemon. So we will then move to our JROTC recognition, and we do have a number of recognitions tonight. So if you are here in person, you're in for a treat. And so, Dr. Pilch, I will hand this over to you to introduce our JROTC program in recognition.
Thank you, President Matthews, and I'll invite Mr. Anthony Osmus, Assistant Superintendent of Secondary School Leadership, and our Marine Corps Junior ROTC staff and students up. This is a huge honor, board. We get to honor these fine folks tonight for being in the top 20% of programs in the nation. So Mr. Osmus is going to talk a little bit more about how that recognition is achieved, and then we're going to have a chance to truly honor each of you.
So good evening, President Matthews, members of the board, and Dr. Pilch. We're here tonight to celebrate great programs, people, and events in District 6. And tonight we are here to recognize our very own JROTC program from Northridge High School. In a moment, I'll turn this over to Major Kinsley to talk about its program and accomplishments. But first, I'd like to brag about a few recent events, and there are many. So most recently, many of us had the honor to watch our JROTC cadets present colors at the Colorado Association of School Board at their annual conference. What an honor it was to watch them as they presented, and they really represented us well at that conference. Additionally, the JROTC program will be attending the Service Nationals for Marksmanship in Alabama in February. They qualified by finishing in the top 20 in the individual category and top 25 as a team. So we wish them luck. They recently finished second in both the civilian marksmanship program and in the Colorado JROTC State Championship. And I'll let the major tell you how close those competitions actually were when he gets a chance to speak. This is an amazing accomplishment, really earned by their hard work. They get up in the morning and they practice early in the morning while most of us are still in bed. However, the main reason that we are here is to celebrate the exemplary performance of this program. As a result, our very own JROTC program was selected as a Naval Honor Program. This honor is only given to the top 20% of programs across the nation. This distinction is awarded by calculating the number of academic scholarships, the overall general inspection, community service hours, and there are a ton, and school participation in extracurricular events. At this point, I'd like Major Kinsley to introduce himself and his guest and speak more about all these accomplishments. Major Kinsley.
Well, thank you all for having us here tonight. It is nice. I don't like being recognized, and anybody that knows me knows that. But it's not about me, and that's one of the things that's the beauty of this program is thanks to Mr. Norwood as being one of the hiring staff in 2013, right as I was retiring from the Marine Corps. He was on the board, and what a blessing to be here. And what I've realized is over these years is, yes, there's a certain element that the instructors do, myself and Gunny Morrison, as instructors what we do, but it is all about the cadets, and they run it the way the battalion is set up. It is a true life skills course. They learn leadership, they learn management, but it's a leadership and character development class or program. What some people think is that we're trying to recruit people into the military, although there's benefits to that. That is not the intent, and we don't even try to recruit. So the ones that choose to go in, that's up to them. And so being a true life skills class, that's what we try to make sure these kids understand, so that when they see this 6'1" bald guy with his eyes sunk halfway into his head, it can be kind of intimidating on day one and probably week one, but they realize that it is all about making them better. So COVID, I think you mentioned that, it did hit pretty hard in a lot of different ways. It brought our numbers considerably down, and this is across the nation. We've started the recruiting effort big to get the numbers back in there, because it's hard to make people understand that what we are, and that it is like I said, like a life skills course. We average probably around 3,700 community service hours a year. So that is including COVID when we really couldn't do it. So typically, I mean, a couple of our best years, we're in excess of 5,000 community service hours a year. We're already above 2,000 for this year. Almost 1,000 just for Toys for Tots. Anybody helped with that? So the cadets are really involved, and that's what we expect that they do, that understand that it's service to community. And Mr. Asmus was talking about the rifle competitions. We've been first in the state championships and 2 different state championships the last couple of years, undefeated. This year kind of knocked us off our pedestal a little bit. One of them we lost by 1 point, meaning 1 shot. If 1 shot was higher, we would have won. And then the other state championship we tied, and they had 2 more bullseyes than us, so that gave them that trophy to take home. So those hurt and stung a little bit, but that's okay. These guys get up and dust off and carry on. So this February 1st to 5th, we're flying out to Alabama. Like you said, that's the Service Nationals. That's all the Marine Corps programs in the country. But we're not selling them short. They also qualified for another national competition in April. So we're going to see if we can get the funding to go there in Utah. So that's kind of a nice thing. That is a national championship that has to deal with different clubs and FFA and those types of things. I'm going to keep the rest of these short, but just kind of give you an idea. Besides the marksmanship team, we have competitive, a lot of you have seen the color guards. We do about 60 of those a year. I think we're about 40 right now. But we also have a competitive physical fitness team, which we always do really well in the state. This year we didn't compete yet, but we're still building our team back, but we're going to do pretty well. And also with the marksmanship team, 4 of our 5 varsity competitors graduated last year. So we're starting from scratch, and we're still able to achieve that, which is, when I say we, I say these guys here. Since 2014, about $4.5 million in scholarships our cadets have earned, including several Daniels scholars and NROTC scholarships, which says a lot about them. And I'm going to let you hear from a couple of these folks tonight. Our Battalion Sergeant Major, Morgan Jr. Warwick. We have our Battalion Executive Officer, Brian Maynard. And then we also have a squad leader, which is, because we have senior, junior, and sophomore here with us tonight. And he's not only a squad leader, but there's another collateral duty that he has as unit historian. So there's a lot of stuff that they do to build this program and keep it going. And I think they're on the right track. So with that, I'm going to close my mouth and bring up the Battalion Sergeant Major so you can hear from somebody a little more important than me.
Hello. On behalf of the North Ridge Grizzly Battalion, I'd like to thank you all for this great opportunity. As said, I am First Sergeant Morgan Junio Warwick, and I am the current Battalion Sergeant Major. I am responsible for the administration and over 100 cadets. This program for me has really excelled me as a person. I started off as a really shy, kind of naive little girl, and over the years, I've progressed and become more confident within myself and more confident in my trust in others. It has influenced my dreams of joining the military. As a young child, I've always wanted to fly. I've always looked up to my dad because he served in the Navy, and being a part of this program and the family that it has brought me has excelled my dreams even more, and I currently have them stationed on becoming a naval aviator. So hopefully I will get that done, but I will.
All right, hello. Just to reaffirm what the major said, my name is Brian Maynard. I'm actually a first lieutenant, but I hold the billet of executive officer. So I'd like to start off with kind of like what got me into JROTC. Ever since I was like a little kid, like even like lower than this podium, I've wanted to be like a soldier. I don't know, maybe I just watched one too many war movies. But I knew I wanted to be a soldier, and whenever I saw this opportunity in Greeley, I knew I had to take it. I am still kind of on the teeter-totter of what branch I want to join, because I am interested, but I think I know what branch I really want to join. So I'd like to talk about my experiences, how I've developed over time in the program. When I first joined, it was during those COVID years. So like half of the time I was online, and then the other half I was in class. It was kind of jarring for me, especially like adapting to that. But I really tried to apply myself when I was in class. I really tried to get into it. Not a whole lot happened my freshman year, obviously due to like difficulties, but it was still a great experience. My sophomore year, I got the opportunity to be a fire team leader. So it's not quite a squad leader, but I was in charge of 2 people. That was actually a really good, small experience of like the little leadership, and how everybody is like a leader there. Even like a little fire team leader, he's in charge of 2 people, and he's learning them. He's like seeing what motivates them, what drives them, and how to just improve them and make sure that they are better, and like how they can actually be a step up from him. And then actually this year, I went from being a platoon commander, so I was actually in charge of a whole classroom, which was a really great experience. I went from, well, I should start off with this actually. When I was a platoon commander, it was really different from being that really small leadership, you know, just a fire team leader, to being in charge of like a whole classroom. So I had to learn a lot, but it was a great experience. And now I'm actually the executive officer, so I'm in charge of the platoon commanders. Yeah, thank you. I'll pass it off to the squad leader.
Hello, I am Timothy Longaker. I am the unit historian and a squad leader of one of the many platoons in our battalion. And I would love to say that this battalion, this whole class, has changed my life dramatically. I went from being a kid that had probably 8 suspensions under my belt. I wasn't very good in middle school. But just moving into high school, I never thought I'd go anywhere in life. I didn't have any plans. I didn't know what I was going to do. I thought I was just going to end up in a field of nothingness after high school. I didn't know where I was going to go. And then one day, I walk in this gym at Northridge. I just see this big, tall, bald man. Just like, you know what? That guy looks like someone I want to talk to today. Talk to him. And just, next thing I know, I'm in his class. Walking in his classroom full of probably 30 kids. He's just standing there. He just welcomes me into my seat. And just, for the next year and a half, just from there on, I know I'm a leader now. I'm a different person. I actually have a life goal now. In my family, we are all dedicated to the country. We're all dedicated to its well-being and the people in it. We've all been in the military, but I was never the person that was really told that you should go in. My mom was always like, oh, don't go in, it's too scary, you'll get killed. Yeah, still believe that, but it's worth it. Just from learning from this battalion, serving my community is definitely one of my favorite things. And I've only gotten that experience from this man and the many cadets that follow him. So I'd really like to thank him for the life experiences that will last me a lifetime. Thank you very much.
All right, so I didn't intend to pick 3 people that were going in the military, so it looks like I just lied to you about that, but I think what really, the takeaway from that is there's an appreciation for the structure and the organization, the expectations and high standards that we have for the cadets. That's why it breaks my heart when some of them say, hey, I want to drop, and I'm like, well, why? Because it's not for me. And what's not for you? The leadership, the accountability, and those types of things. Some kids just have to be worked into that, and so we're understanding of that, and we try to keep them there as much as we can. I'm going to just close with this, with the National Honors Program. There's a lot of things that I just mentioned, that they mentioned, that go into selection for that, and including community service, involvement in the school, academics, scholarships, all of this stuff, what they're involved in, different programs and leadership. And so every year that we've been eligible so far, since 2014, that's the first year we were eligible for it, we've been in an honors program, which almost you take for granted, but there's programs throughout the United States that have been around since the 60s and 70s that have never been an honors program. So that says a lot about the kids here and the support that we get from the district and from the school. Sometimes they press the I believe button, and I appreciate that because these cadets carry it themselves. Subs love our class because they don't have to do anything. The cadets run it all. So thank you again for the opportunity and for recognizing these cadets. I really appreciate everything.
So this is just one of the great programs that we have. And just one more time, please help me recognize this incredible program and its leadership. So thank you very much.
Mr. Asmus, I do think we'll have a few people that don't go anywhere just yet. You may get some questions from board members. Guys, thank you. And first tonight we have Ms. Sullivan.
There we go. Congratulations to every one of you. And Major Kinsley, don't sell yourself short. You say you don't want the recognition, but each one of these students here praised you highly, and you've impacted their life, and they're going to remember this. You're going to be one of their favorites down the road. They'll come back to visit you and whatnot. But for each one of you guys that are going into the military, thank you. Thank you in advance for your service. I did have 3 kids that were in the military service, and they came back changed. They're very responsible. They're very patriotic. And I'm sorry for the last one. I did not catch your name, but thank you for your patriotism to our country. I can't say enough for what this program is. So I've watched it over the years, how it's grown, and it's immensely very popular with the kids. And you have changed a lot of lives. So do not ever cut yourself short. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you, Ms. Sullivan. Mr. Norwood.
Major and Gunnery Sergeant, thank you for your service to this great country. And Major, I remember that day 10 years ago. It's been 10 years now that we interviewed you. I knew right away that you were the right person for the job. And I think having worked at Northridge with you and the students that you have worked with, anytime I had one of your students in my class, I always knew it because they were very respectful and very polite and always reached out and wanted to help. That's a credit to you and the program and Gunnery Sergeant and to the young adults you have here with you today. Congratulations. As a friend of yours, I couldn't be happier for you.
Commissioner Norwood. I don't think we have any other comments for you guys tonight, but I will just close and echo those comments. We say often here that leadership matters, and so this is the second year in a row that you guys have been recognized in this way. And I know it's longer than that, but that's the one that I remember last year, and it doesn't seem like it was a year ago even, but it's the second year, and different students, as was mentioned. So we thank you for your leadership, and we thank you guys for your leadership at Northridge, and we appreciate what you do every day. So thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you, sir. Now, I was just asked to quickly brief the other instructor who he was. It's a new instructor. He just got here this year, came from Topeka, Kansas. Gunnery Sergeant Jason Morrison. So I'd like to welcome him aboard formally to the district. I don't know if you all got the chance to meet him, but if you haven't, please make sure you make a point of doing that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda tonight, we have another recognition, and that's for Madison Elementary School Bright Spot Award. And again, Dr. Pilch, I will give it to you to introduce this recognition.
Thank you, President Matthews. I'm very excited to invite Mr. Steve Eisenhower and his staff who have come tonight, and whomever else is here tonight from Madison Elementary to come up to the podium to be recognized. This is a huge award. Madison Elementary was selected as one of 20 schools in the state of Colorado to receive the Governor's Bright Spot Award. What this means is that Madison is one of 20 schools in the state of Colorado that have shown strong student improvement, academic achievement improvement in the time since the pandemic. And so we know, and you mentioned it earlier, that we lost a lot of things during the pandemic. Well, at Madison Elementary School, they did not lose student achievement. Instead, they improved dramatically. And so to get this recognition, they had to move up 2 bands in their student achievement from where they were prior to the pandemic. So this is huge. I had my staff here doing a little research for me on how many schools there are in the state of Colorado. There's 1,867 schools. So Madison Elementary is a part of 0.01%. You are a 0.01%er. And as you said, Mr. Matthews, leadership matters. And we're so excited to have some of the leadership team here tonight and our building leadership, Mr. Steve Eisenhower. So I'm going to turn it over to him. I know that Mr. Eisenhower would probably like to say a few things, and then we'll pass it to you all.
Well, Mr. Matthews, School Board, Dr. Pilch, thank you, especially Dr. Dowdery, for all the support. And yes, I'd like to recognize our assistant principal, Mr. Cameron Shin, and a 5th grade teacher, Mrs. Kelly Atkinson, and our CLD, one of our CLD teachers, Mrs. Alyssa Burgess. We had many more staff who wanted to come, and things just got in the way. And I appreciate that you moved it to tonight. Several of us came down with that dreaded COVID that was going around, and so we couldn't be here for the initial recognition. I appreciate what Dr. Pilch has said, and much as the theme tonight, I do not care for the credit or the recognition. It has very little to do with me. It has to do with a great group of scholars and staff who put scholars first and who believe in them and help the scholars believe in themselves and put together a plan. And although it's nice to hear the recognition about our achievement, we're not pleased with it yet. We want to continue to grow with our achievement. Our growth is amazing. Where we've come from my first few years at Madison to where we are now, but we're not happy with our achievement yet. And so I just remind everyone that we're still making great progress and great trajectory, and it's because of an amazing staff led by a great assistant principal and our instructional coach and our mental health team and our instructional policy. So big thank you to all of you for your support to us, and just thank you. Appreciate it.
Ms. Mash.
I just want to say congratulations, and to quote the student body president at Greeley West, when that new building opened, she said, finally, we have a building that matches the people inside. And so look at the amazing work you've done in a building that the roof leaks and people's offices are in closets and there's not windows, and et cetera, et cetera. So I'm so excited that the scholars at Madison will also have an amazing building, and the sky's the limit to what you'll achieve with that. So congratulations.
Thank you, Ms. Mash. Dr. Campos-Spitzy.
Yeah, when I read about the Bright Spot Award, thank you. I was super impressed when I first read about the Governor's Bright Spot Award, in that during the pandemic, I think all of us, not just students in schools, but were surviving barely, and you guys actually thrived. And that is just spectacular. It just speaks to the leadership, the teachers, like you said, your commitment to the students and their achievement. And so congratulations on being part of the 0.01%. Yeah, keep up the good work.
I don't see any other comments, and so I would just again echo those and say those years during COVID, there was a lot of disruption. You guys dealt with a lot. There was a lot of change and a lot of turnover and a lot of starts and stops, and it is amazing to come out of COVID and to know that kids not only didn't lose learning, but gain learning in that process. And so amazing work, and we couldn't be more proud. So thank you for being here tonight. Next on our agenda tonight is School Board Recognition Month. And again, Dr. Pilch, because this is a presentation, I will give it to you.
Thank you, President Matthews. And I believe I have some young people coming forward who are going to help me with this recognition tonight. But I just want to recognize each of you for your service, your commitment, your dedication, and just remind everyone that this is a volunteer job. And you give countless hours to this work and care deeply about the students here in District 6, and we are just honored to be able to recognize you for that service tonight. So celebrate this month. It's your month as school board members, and I'm going to pass it over to our young folks and let them introduce themselves and tell you what they're up to.
Good evening, school board and Dr. Pilch. My name is Gavin Peterson, and I'm a sophomore at Greeley West High School and a member of their student council. I have attended our district schools since kindergarten, and I couldn't be more grateful for the experiences that I have had so far in my educational journey. As a student, we don't always realize that just how many people are actively involved in our learning experiences. School board members are ordinary people who demonstrate extraordinary dedication to our public schools. The month of January is School Board Recognition Month, and it is a perfect time for us as a District 6 school community to recognize the unwavering commitment of our board. Too often, we forget about the personal sacrifices school board members make. Our school board members attend meetings and make important decisions that can't always make everyone happy. They visit our schools and they educate themselves on what we as students need to thrive. They ensure that our learning spaces are safe and that we are provided with the resources and staff to help us grow as individuals. Every student has access to experiences that help them explore life after high school through our pathway programs, concurrent enrollment, AVID, IB, and many more. Unfortunately, at times our school board members have been targeted for their choice to serve and forced to listen to unkind comments and harsh speech directed towards them. Fortunately, the vast majority of our learning community, parents, staff, and students like myself appreciate that we do have a board that cares about us, who continues to show up for us at these meetings, in our buildings, and in our lives. In this month of January, we want to take an intentional moment to recognize the value of your work to our students in our communities. Our student council at Greeley West, in partnership with all of our schools, have been working to put together a small token of appreciation for each of these members on our board. Our schools wanted to share their gratitude with you, and I hope in your baskets you will find not only kind words, but also some swag and goodies from some of the schools you support. May these bring you a smile to your face and help you remember why you do what you do. And you'll also find a book by Andy Andrews called The Butterfly Effect. In the book, he says, there are generations yet unborn whose very lives will be shifted and shaped by the moves you make and the actions you take today, and tomorrow, and the next day, and the next. Every single thing you do matters. You have been created as one of a kind on the planet Earth. There has never been one like you, and there never will be again. You have been created in order that you might make a difference. You have within you the power to change the world. There is no doubt that in my mind that you are making a positive difference in every single day, and I want to thank you for everything you have done so far and will continue to do. I want to close with the words on the keychain you will find inside your basket. Rob Nord, Kyle Bentley, Natalie Mash, Terry Pappas, Michael Matthews, Taylor Sullivan, and Brenda Campos-Spitzy, may you be proud of the work you do and the person you are and the difference you make.
Well, Gavin, thank you very much for that. That is touching and eloquent. And so we appreciate you being here tonight and taking time. We know that you're busy this week, and so thank you for taking the time to recognize us. It is greatly appreciated. So, next on our agenda is our Council of Student Representatives report. So I would ask our Council of Student Representatives to come forward now. And Dr. Pilch, would you like to introduce our Council of Student Representatives? They're here pretty much every month, so I don't know if you need to do that, but we are grateful for your presence here tonight, and welcome.
Thank you. President Matthews, members of the board, and Superintendent Pilch, thanks for having us today at the board meeting. My name is Kim Silva, and I'm the principal at Early College Academy, and I'm here to introduce our two Student Council of Representatives from ECA, Dylan Roseman and Fanny Romero, and they're going to talk to you about some things they wanted to share with you about ECA tonight. Both students are seniors at ECA. We're sad about that. We would love to keep them forever. They're wonderful students, and they're amazing advocates, and they're great problem solvers. They really care about our school and our students, and we're so very proud of them. So I'm going to turn this over to Dylan first. Before I do, though, I do want to mention that Dylan is a Betcher semifinalist this year, so we're really proud of him.
All right, let's get started. Good evening, President Matthews, members of the Board of Education, and Superintendent Dr. Pilch. I am Dylan Roseman, and I'm here to speak as Student Body President of Early College Academy and as a Council of Student Representatives member. Thank you for this opportunity to speak about all that ECA does for me and the many students that participate in advancing their careers and paths in life. As my senior year is halfway through, I've come to thank our school board and superintendent for supporting ECA with the resources it provides that allows ECA students to earn their high school diploma and a 2-year degree. And not only this, but going above and beyond at allowing myself and some of my senior classmates who have already completed our AA degree requirements to take 1 or 2 classes on the main campus this semester that support our individual intended college and career pathway. This way, I can not only get my 2-year degree, but have already have classes knocked out of what I would take for triple the price at a 4-year university. Such college and life preparation is not exactly offered at just any other district. I have each and every one of you to thank for it. My only request to make this experience that much more valuable is to expand the amount of people that have access to it. ECA is far smaller than its other larger counterparts, but it is a growing community, one that will hopefully outgrow its space in the near future. I think the best usage of my voice would be for starting conversations on possessing a larger, newer space. Other than that, I have come to realize that ECA implements change on the local level and makes my job as a representative easy. Our student council addresses most of the things students would request being fixed. On a personal level, ECA's student council has also brought me many fond memories of friends and events that I will take with me for life. In closing, my high school experience and my time at ECA is one I appreciate, with it all being made possible through our district partnership with Ames Community College, District 6's commitment to concurrent enrollment, and a genuine desire to see all students succeed. Thank you, and my fellow CSR representative Fanny will come to elaborate further.
Sorry, I'm kind of short. Okay, good evening, members of the Board of Education, President Matthews, and Superintendent Dr. Pilch. I am Fanny Romero, and I'm here to speak on behalf of students at Early College Academy and as a Council Student Representative Member 2. I would also like to thank you for your time. This is my last year at Early College Academy, and I can honestly say we have come a long way. Mental health has always been the growth I've wanted to see at Early College Academy, and we can say we have made progress in this area. We have not just been provided with amazing administration, but also teachers and professors who are great and understanding. While we are full-time college students, our instructors understand that we are still teenagers. We have also been provided with more access to resources. We have a new student support center where students have access to study, meet with tutors, form study groups, and get in contact with a social worker, counselor, or an academic advisor. In addition, we have been able to restart our student clubs and have more social events. These have both helped students build a community and have fun. Personally, my involvement in student council has provided me with a family and has helped grow my passion for helping others. My high school experience and my time at ECA is one I will never forget. I share Dylan's appreciation for all that has been provided for us. Superintendent Dr. Peltz, President Matthews, and Board of Education, thank you for your time, the opportunity to speak and represent ECA once again. We truly appreciate this opportunity.
And while we're here, we also wanted to mention our CSR Family Movie Night. For families, we are holding the iconic movie Cars at the Greeley West High School on Saturday, January 21st at 3 to 5 p.m. and 5 to 7 p.m. For more information, even email Principal Allen or Principal Silva, and we hope to see you all there.
Well, thank you both, and thank you for your report tonight. And I just want to take also the opportunity to thank the community. I don't know if everybody understands exactly how different things are paid for, but when you talk about concurrent enrollment and all those college classes that you've been able to accumulate, Dylan, you're talking about what was passed in our mill levy override. That's what pays for that. And so we just want to say again to our community how thankful we are, and we hope you are as proud of these students as we are. So thank you guys for being here tonight.
Thank you. And I'm just informed that it has been changed to 4 to 6 p.m.
4 to 6. Cars is 4 to 6 p.m.?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Next up on our agenda is our bond update. And so this was information we were going to get last month, Dr. Pilch, but had to be moved to this month. And turns out that's a great thing because we do have such a full house to get to hear exactly how much has transpired and where we are in the bond issue that was passed in 2019.
Thank you. Mr. Ken Hansen, our Assistant Superintendent of Support Services and our bond guru, has taken the podium, and I'm going to turn it over to him.
Okay, thank you, President Matthews, Board of Education, Dr. Pilch, for the opportunity to give you this update. And this is an update that relates to I-2030. And most of this work, we work in this goal of operation and organizational effectiveness, where we ensure innovation, transparency, and accountability to our community through measurable outcomes and continuous improvement. Specifically, Goal 1, align district resources to meet the needs of all students, and predominantly that's our bond resources. And under Objective 1, I'd like to look at ensure a learning environment that is supportive of student achievement. Really, our outcome with this bond is equity in classrooms across the district and equity in classrooms between Greeley and other schools in the state. And also Objective 2, to implement the facility master plan. The facility master plan was approved by the Board of Education in the summer of 2019. So this report roughly is a 3-year update. And what my goal is today is to simply tell you what we've done, where we are, and where we're going. And this undoubtedly will be our busiest summer of our bond so far. So since the passage of the bond in November of 2019, the following projects have been completed. So there you can see the list on the left. Billy Martinez Elementary and Jackson Elementary, the first 2 schools, received their upgrades, along with Bella the following year, Bella Romero, 4-8, Dos Rios, Winograd, and Hyman. Franklin Phase 1 was finished last summer. Maplewood is almost done, working on a few doors right now, but it'll be complete here shortly. Greeley West High School, the new building, was completed for this fall. Krista McAuliffe STEM Academy was completed with a complete renovation and an addition a year ago. Toynton Academy of Pre-Engineering was completed at the end of last summer, and Chapello Arts Magnet School was also completed by the end of last summer. When I say completed, we are still going back through on some punch list items and some things like that, but those are the projects that more or less have been done. This summer, we are working on the following. At Franklin, Phase 2, where we will have a secure vestibule and office space added to the front of the building. They had people working in closets and calling them offices, so we're giving them a little more space. The Jefferson High School existing building will be slightly renovated to accommodate Jefferson High School and other district access programs. The Greeley Central High School upgrade should be completed this summer. The Meeker Elementary addition and Martinez Elementary addition, which are allowing us to take portable classrooms off sites, will be completed this spring to summer. The new CTE Center in Jefferson High School will be completed this summer. And Northridge High School, we have a lot of work to do there, and we're pretty confident we'll have that done by August. And Scott Elementary School, with its upgrades, will be completed this summer. In addition, other projects that we will be starting but will take more than the summer will be Shawsheen Elementary addition, so we'll be starting that. That'll be complete for the following summer. The Montfort Elementary upgrade and office addition, same thing. We'll do a lot of work this summer, but that'll be completed going into the summer 2024. In Heath Middle School, got a nice update. This was set to be completed in the spring of 2024. We went through 5 months of permitting, which is not usual with the city on that project. So it's put us a little bit behind, but we now think that we'll have that done around Thanksgiving instead of early spring of next year. So that'll be pretty cool. And then projects that we will begin this spring, summer for completion in the summer of 2024. So already starting for 2 summers out will be the Centennial Elementary School upgrade, Bella Romero Academy K-3 upgrade, Brentwood upgrade, Early College Academy upgrade, Prairie Heights upgrade, the Gap upgrade, and I guess I've got Early College Academy twice. You get 2 upgrades. Okay? So those, when we get to the end of this list, we will have completed in the summer of 2024, we will have completed and touched projects in all of our school sites. So a lot of work to do this summer. Our charter schools have also been busy using bond funds. A lot of those, when you look at that list, they're HVAC upgrades, fire suppression, auditory upgrades. That's work that their schools have done and are very similar to a lot of work we've been doing with our upgrades. And also, all of this work coincides with the work of the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee. We meet at least quarterly. What I do is provide an independent review of those projects to them, and we use the facility master plan as our goal. And as you know, when we passed the bond, we had proceeds after selling the bonds. So as we come up with projects to reduce either the number of portable classrooms or increase our career and technical education programs, we work with the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee for approval to use those proceeds. And kind of happy to say it's a little chaotic, but despite the current climate of shortages, long lead items, and price escalation, all projects are on target for completion within the reality of our existing bond budget. So some budgets are a little bit like this, but overall we keep track of our target at the end. We know exactly how much we have to spend, and we're working within that budget. Proceeds, in working with the Bond Oversight Committee, we did adjust those project numbers based on inflation. So we knew what was priced 3 years ago isn't the same price now, so we tried to accommodate that by using proceeds. And proceeds were allocated for additions to reduce the number of portable classrooms in the district. We have gone from our original bond language of eliminating 33% of our portable classrooms to right now, if we stopped work, we would be at about 52% of our 142 classrooms will be gone by the end of this summer. And we still have work to do one more summer. And that is just a quick update of where we are with projects. Any questions?
I bet we might have a few. Ms. Pappas.
Thank you for that update. It's hard to believe that all those things are either completed or in progress or starting. It's pretty amazing. I do have a question just because I drive by there every day. Can you just explain what Heath will look like on 16th Street? I have so many people asking me, and I'm making up stuff. So.
We're filling in the horseshoe.
Okay.
That's simple enough. So.
Well, no. Like,
So on the north end of the building,
right.
There'll be new office additions. So in terms of security and secure vestibules, their office is kind of in the middle of the building. And in addition to them needing space, so in that northern addition that will fill in the horseshoe on the south end, I'm sorry, the south end, will be a new office space, will be a new smart lab area. Their art room will get moved up to the front of the school, and the new clinic will be in that space. And then off to the north side, we will be building a new shop area, which will be on the northeast corner of the building, and then a new choir room in the northwest corner of the building. And that will allow us to take all those metal classrooms down and have a secure perimeter school.
Thank you. That is very helpful.
Ms. Mash.
That was actually my question too, but so where will the main entrance and the secure vestibule be?
It'll be to the east side. We have to put in a little bit of a parking loop there. You can't park there all day, but if you want to run in to see the principal for a minute, you'll be able to do that. Pardon me? Yeah, south. Sorry, I got my mixed up. Southeast corner.
Cool. Thank you. Well, since I asked for time, thank you. It's so cool to see it all in one place, because it's not that I've forgotten about projects, but you're like, oh yeah, look at that. So thank you for using, the gift that our community gave us so well and on time and under budget. I mean, you said that every time, and that's
You said
amazing.
on time and on budget.
On time and on budget, sorry. Yes, on time and on budget. Well, it's not better than on time and over budget, so yes.
Any other comments, questions from board members? Not seeing any, Mr. Henson. I do have one. I know when we started this, it was an important for the board then, and I think for this board as well, to eliminate those temporary and portable classrooms, because about 15% of our kids were going to school in temporary classrooms that had become permanent and outdated. And at the time, I think we wanted to get rid of, or we thought we could get rid of a third of those. And I just was curious as to where we are now. How many will we get rid of? I think there were 143.
If we stop after this summer, we'll be at 52% gone. So we're in the 70s of replacing.
Well, that's spectacular. And thank you for your work. We've said it again twice already, and I'll say it again, leadership matters. And we did not know when we passed that bond issue in November of 2019, everything that would happen in the months after that. And the day after that bond issue passed, we had people being interviewed for positions, and the speed with which Dr. Pilch, you and Mr. Henson and Ms. Sponsler and everybody else who was involved has enabled us to do this on time and on budget. I recently spoke to an executive at AMP. He said that if we had started later, if we were doing Greeley West now, the cost would be maybe 30% more. And so your leadership has been instrumental in keeping us on time and on budget. So we thank you very much, and thank you to Dr. Pilch.
Okay, thank you.
Next up is our legislative update. And Dr. Pilch, I see Mr. Fall coming to the podium. I don't guess there's anything you need to say before he gets here. So welcome, Mr. Fall. Thank you for being here tonight for this update.
Thank you, President Matthews, Board of Education. Dr. Pilch.
Well, Nate's queuing up. I'll just share with you all that he and I had an opportunity, and Ms. Myers and Mayor Gates was there as mayor, but we had an opportunity last week to participate in a legislative update at UNC, where each of Ames, UNC, the Northern Colorado, it's the chamber organization, and District 6 were all a part with each of our lobbyists there, and the opportunity to have Mary Young there, as well as the new senator, I'll think of it, was here with us as well. And so we learned a little bit about what they expect will be the hot topics for this year, and I think Nate will probably share some of that with you. Thank you, Mr. Fall.
Thank you, Dr. Pilch. It is that time of year again. The 74th General Assembly is up and running for this new year, so I am here to give you a legislative update. Just with a quick roadmap, we're going to go over some terms as we always do. Dr. Campos-Spitzy, you haven't heard this spiel yet, so welcome. We are going to go a little bit into what lobbying is and why we're even talking about any of this legislation. I will go over those new legislatures for Dr. Pilch, and then we'll go over a couple of the big topics, and I'll leave some time at the end for questions or comments. So just so you're aware, as far as the process is concerned, I think it's helpful to walk through this because as we get into the legislative session, I will be using a lot of this language, just so you're aware where a bill is in the process. So what happens is a bill is introduced by a sponsor. A sponsor could be a member of the House of Representatives or a state senator. A bill does not become necessarily law, just so you know. A bill, once it is introduced, is assigned to a committee. A lot of the bills that we are looking at are assigned to the Education Committee. So I'll use an example. A bill by a Senate sponsor will go and be introduced. That'll be then handed down to the Senate Education Committee. At the committee stage, a hearing will occur. Really, the committee is where a lot of bills go to die. What we end up seeing is a lot of committees will postpone indefinitely or kill a bill and won't even reach the full floor at that point. Committees can also amend a bill. They could refer a bill to another committee, again, or they could do what's called killing a bill or postponing indefinitely. That's just a term of art to describe what happens when a bill is not going to be passed through committee. If that bill passes through a committee, it then goes on to what's known as the Committee of the Whole. So again, in my example, if it passes through the the Senate Education Committee, it would then go to the entire Senate. They would have their second and third reading. If it fails at either stage, that bill would be called lost. They can also lay over a bill for another date, or they could just never address it. And then if it goes through the third reading through the Senate, then it would go back to the House where the whole process would start anew. It would then go through the House Education Committee and so forth. If it goes through both houses with little issue, that bill will be considered passed. That will go to Governor Polis for signature. Then the bill becomes law. There are things called appropriations bills. We often talk about the School Finance Act. That is an appropriations bill that is passed annually. That is the General Assembly appropriating money to school finance annually. We also refer to that as the long bill. If the bill has been engrossed, that means it's gone through the second reading. And then if it has been re-engrossed, that's gone through the third reading. So of course, a whole lot can happen. There's a veto process. We're not going to get into any of that mess, but that's just a little bit of information of how this process all works. When it comes to lobbying, I'll just read this. Lobbying is communicating directly or soliciting others to communicate with a covered official for the purpose of aiding in or influencing bills or other pending proposed writing, fiscal impact statements, convening special sessions, or drafting. We do have a lobbyist that works at the district. Her name is Ann Barkus of Barkus, Mendez and Associates. She's been doing this for a long time. She works with a lot of school districts throughout the state. She's very knowledgeable about education law issues, particularly when it comes to school finance. So if there's a bill that comes to us that we have some concerns about or some questions, perhaps we want to seek an amendment, we would be working with Ann Barkus to make those changes. And she certainly has the skills to work with legislatures on making any amendments. What happens for these legislative updates is I will give you my opinion about what I think the district should do in terms of a position, either supporting or opposing. What we most often do is monitor bills just to see kind of where they're at, because again, a lot of bills get introduced to committee and then they go nowhere. So it's really in our best interest to just monitor them and not take an official formal position. However, the Board of Education, you have every right to take a position on any bill that I talk about. And we can also take a position of amend. I think it's really particularly important this year that we are monitoring bills, just given the political makeup of the General Assembly. And I'll get into that on the next slide or so. So just to know your legislatures, we did have a couple of changes in the Colorado State Senators for Weld County who have kind of direct local influence over Greeley Evans School District 6. That would be Kevin Priola out of District 13. He took over the former minority leader for the Senate, that was John Cook. And then Brian Pelton took over District 1 for Jerry Sonnenberg. For the Colorado State, and then of course we have Barbara Kirkmeyer, still represents District 23. For Colorado State Representatives, the only change was to Tanya Van Beber's seat for District 48. That is now Gabe Evans. And then Dan Woog and Mary Young are still representing Districts 63 and 50 respectively. Again, just to kind of point out the political makeup of the General Assembly this year, there are 35 senators. 23 of them are Democrats and 12 are Republicans. For the House of Representatives, 46 of them are Democrats and 19 of them are Republicans. So when I emphasize that it's really important that we're monitoring bills, for any bill that might be backed by Democrats, I can't predict the future, but it's certainly more likely than not that those bills will move forward through both houses. So we want to make sure that our interests are aligned with those bills and that legislation moving forward. So just wanted to point that out for you all. And through these legislative updates, what I often end up doing is I end up talking at you with lots and lots of bills. It can be quite confusing and hard to follow along. But right now, I just want to focus a little bit on some of those hot topics or those big issues that we will be really focused on right now. A lot of legislation has yet to be introduced. First and foremost, of course, is school finance. This is always really one of the primary areas that we are going to be looking into. These were just some of the changes you're seeing here that were enacted during the last legislative session in 2022. We have the School Finance Act. House Bill 22-1202 was for counting at-risk students. I'll talk a little bit more about that and some of the issues we're facing on the next slide. House Bill 22-1295, the Universal Preschool Program, has been established, and that will have significant impacts on school finance moving forward. Senate Bill 22-127, which I believe was introduced by or sponsored by Senator Kirkmeyer, increased special education funding. It provided $80 million for special education funding. It also increased Tier A funding for essentially all students with disabilities from $1,250 to $1,750, which is wonderful because we know we need a lot of support for students with disabilities. And so it's great to see additional resources flowing to those students. Senate Bill 22-202, that's the state matching program for school district MLO revenue. What they appropriated was $10 million to match school districts with MLOs in place. They say that if they can match all districts with MLO, that will be about $163 million annually. And as I'll talk about the budget stabilization factor, it seems unlikely that they will totally match all school districts with MLOs in place, but perhaps the state will support school districts who are relying on local taxpayer revenue to support all students. And then finally, Senate Bill 22-238, that bill temporarily lowered the state assessment rates used to calculate property taxes. That wasn't an education bill, but it does have wide sweeping impacts when we're looking at public education funding because we use property taxes to support public education just one way. So the last school finance bill, we saw an increase to base per pupil funding. That increased to $7,478. Statewide averages are expected to increase this year from $9,015 to $9,559. I briefly asked Megan Sponsor, our CFO, if this is around where we're at. And she gave me one of these, which I believe means that we're about in that area. We also have the school finance formula. As I mentioned, the at-risk formula has been changed. And so now CDE is convening a working group to look at how this new at-risk factor is determined. I can certainly say it's much more difficult to identify at-risk students. We know that Colorado citizens passed the Healthy Meals for All. And one of the kind of administrative things that we were doing was working with families to identify students who qualified for free and reduced lunch. There's no longer any incentive for families to fill out those forms. And so we're going to have to find new ways to make sure that those families are filling out those forms so we can make sure that we are identifying all of our at-risk students because we know that those are students that have a lot of needs and need more resources to educate. The at-risk formula was also amended to include census data. The CDE working group is looking into what this census data is. It's a neighborhood socioeconomic status index that weights student needs based on at least 5 socioeconomic status factors linked to each student's census block group. I'm not going to stand here and try to explain or understand exactly how they're going to come up with that calculation, but it looks like they're going to be looking at neighborhoods and kind of taking an average assumption based on the socioeconomic status of those neighborhoods. And we're going to be provided that as a school district, and we're going to come up with some kind of average based on those socioeconomic factors to provide census data. So it's a little challenging, I will say. And then this last piece with direct certification, that has to do a lot with things like Medicaid. There's been some problems with the implementation in that regard because families apply for Medicaid through the county, but that information isn't necessarily shared to the Department of Education. So we need to kind of find that link so that any student that directly qualifies under direct certification for Medicaid can be considered at risk as part of our per pupil count. I did mention that the preschool bill, they're going to remove preschool counts from the calculation because that will be coming into place next year during the fiscal year 2023-2024 school year. That money is now going to be distributed to the Universal Preschool Program in the Department of Early Childhood. And then last, of course, we have the budget stabilization factor. Last year was lowered about $180 million. Hopefully, we continue to see that number decline. Of course, as with every legislative session, they want to introduce bills with grant money and other things that will essentially take money away from school finance as a whole. And so it can be quite challenging to lower that budget stabilization factor. I will be hopeful with all of you that one day we will have a budget stabilization factor at 0. Another big topic is the preschool bill. Really, it's just that last bullet point. I've previously shared this slide with you. We are seeing some issues with implementation at this time. We know that the Department of Early Childhood has been established, and so districts that will be serving students who are 4 years old and plan to enter kindergarten the next year will qualify or be eligible for preschool, and those students will be able to receive up to 10 hours per week of free preschool. And so any local programs that want to provide for preschool will work with school districts like District 6 in providing those services. District 6 has decided to not be a local coordinating organization, an LCO. I think we talked about that last year. There's a lot of good practical reasons why we didn't want to be the LCO for this area, but we are certainly willing to work hand in hand with any LCO or any preschool provider in the district, especially as it pertains to students with disabilities, because we know that funding is going to go to this to the Department of Early Childhood, but we are still going to be required to provide those services to children with disabilities, especially once they enter District 6. We want to make sure that we can streamline that process really well so that those students are getting all the services that they need. The last thing I want to touch on is accountability. So we know that in 2021, they passed the K-12 Education Accountability Systems Performance Audit. Through that bill, they created a performance audit by an independent third party. The independent third party they selected was Human Resources Research Organization. They finally released their third party audit in December 12, 2022. And quite frankly, the findings from that audit didn't result in much. They found that the performance measures in Colorado are, quote, reasonable and appropriate. They did find, however, that there were worse academic outcomes for Hispanic students, students who qualify for free and reduced lunch, i.e. students who are in poverty, and students with disabilities. And those numbers were similar in even high-performing schools, that they found that those metrics, by taking those state assessments, that those students tended to perform worse than others, even in high-performing schools and districts. So we know that there are issues with the accreditation and accountability system. However, this audit seemed to come out with a reasonable and appropriate finding. They also found that school size does matter, that schools with fewer students were more likely to have higher variability in average test scores and larger margins of error. So there's still certainly some issues with the accountability and accreditation system, but this audit didn't really provide much information on what we are to do to improve it. So as far as next steps, I know there are some stakeholder groups who are looking to create what's known as an accountability and accreditation task force. This hasn't been finalized or put together, but they're going to examine other states to see what other states are doing in terms of accreditation and accountability. Are they just providing one-off tests that we can look at statewide, or are they looking at a more holistic approach, perhaps by looking at things like CTE programs and career and college readiness, which is something that we really emphasize here in District 6 that isn't being at least appreciated by our current system of accountability. They're going to look at elements of what high-quality educational systems might look like, and they're also going to try to account for socioeconomic, disability, and geographic adversity students face. Again, there are a lot of variance in terms of the data that we're seeing right now from our current system of accreditation and accountability, and we certainly want to improve on those efforts. And they intend to come up with a report and recommendations hopefully by the end of this year. And then hopefully we can see some legislation perhaps in the 2024 legislative session that really does drive forward changes to the current system. So with that, does anybody have any questions or comments?
Any questions or comments for Mr. Fall? Ms. Mash?
I'll just say thank you for providing this update, and it's great to have somebody else interpret it for us a little bit, because I don't always follow and the ways that a bill can move through. So I always appreciate that review, and yeah, thank you for monitoring and keeping us updated.
Thank you.
Not seeing any other questions for you, Mr. Fall. So again, I would just say thank you for being here tonight. We appreciate your diligent work, and thank you for such a thorough report.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda is our board member comments and reports. We normally do these in our work session, but we did not have a work session tonight. And so, but we did want to give each and every board member a chance to comment and report on what they've been doing in their work in this school district. And so, Ms. Sullivan, we'll start with you. And I want to say, first off, just that I know you wanted to speak at the last meeting, and I know that I think you know this, but I want to make clear just for everyone else that once we adjourn a meeting, there's no motion where we can make to unadjourn and we cannot start another meeting. And so I am glad for you to make those comments now. So I'll let you lead us off.
Alrighty, so my comments tonight pretty much are going to be geared mostly towards the last school board meeting on December 12th. By the end of that night, I was highly frustrated with several of the events that had transpired. I think a lot of us were. But I do have 9 points I need to speak on, so apologize, this might sound a little lengthy. But I want to start off that night. Dr. Pilch had stated that she was working with Jamie Weber to get the proper documents to her for the use of the book complaints. But I'm not quite sure how this has taken place. As President Matthews, you had told me several months ago that neither you nor her were responding to Jamie's emails anymore. And I can attest to that, as we have several unanswered emails that are sitting in my email or my inbox that she had actually sent to the board. You have responded to her also, and one other constituent in emails that you're no longer responding to their emails. But during the board meetings, you ask them to email you. So how are they supposed to get the resolutions resolved if we're not responding to emails, but we also won't respond to them in public comment? Number 2, I've asked Dr. Pilch now to have a work session to create a book policy on vetting the incoming books so that we can try to prevent this issue from continuing on. We as the board have a job description to create policies. Why hasn't this taken place, as I've asked for this several months back? Number 3, regarding the Sunshine Law. It's unethical, but not illegal to meet in groups of 2. I am unsure why I can get continuous invites to have these meetings. We claim that we're transparent, but to continuously have these meetings behind closed doors to discuss issues goes completely against the definition of transparency. Why are we not bringing these issues into the work session where we could be discussing such items in front of the public? Number 4, regarding the changes to the board meetings. At the last board meeting, President Matthews, you handed out a document, and it was the BEDH-R, and we enforced it that night, but we didn't vote on it. The R in there stands for the regulations, which means that those are to be done by administration. Why is there a -R on the public comments? I would argue that the public comment is not controllable by the administration, as the public comment time has nothing to do with the administration of the district. Public comment is the right of the taxpayers to address the board directly. So in that way, there should not be a BEDH-R, because it does give the power to Dr. Pilch when that is not her privilege to control. According to BEDH, the board shall set a time limit on the length of the public participation time and the time limit for the individual speakers. So -R cannot counter the actual board policy. Hence, we as a board must be and should be voting on the public time limit change. Number 5, regarding the executive session that I was not allowed to Zoom in on following my surgery. That was back in second week in November. CASB and D6 policy says only those persons invited by the board may attend. I'm sure during those 2 years during COVID, you had executive session Zoom calls. The board are automatically invited by the board. I should have been allowed to attend. We have a prior meeting where Nathan Fall was ill and he attended via a Zoom. Regarding our board policy, BEAA, and I do take this quote from there. I won't read the whole thing because it's rather lengthy. Board members may attend and participate electronically in regular or special meetings of the board in accordance with this policy and state law. For the purposes of this policy, electronically shall be defined as attendance via phone, video conferencing, or other electronic means that enable the public to hear the comments made by the board members participating electronically and allow the board member to hear the comments made by the public. Board members may attend and participate electronically in a regular or special board meeting only when extenuating circumstances prevent the board from physically attending the meeting. Well, I was unable to attend because I just had surgery. I did attend the board meeting, but was excluded from the executive session. So I just need to ask and understand why I was denied that. Over the course of the year, Dr. Pilch and President Matthews have repeatedly stated that we as individuals cannot speak on behalf of the board. Consequently, there was a letter that was released to the public, both on the district website and in an email to every single family within our district, giving the perception and the intent of just that it speaks, that is from the board. In the letter, it said, quote, "We as elected officials," means that it's the entire board. Am I allowed to release a letter to the public that states my beliefs and thoughts as a board member? You sent out a letter that was signed by Matthews and Pappas. Am I allowed to do the same? What gives the president and the vice president the ability to speak on behalf of the entire board? Number 7, I question how you decided to change the remaining of the agenda outside of the public. This was on the last meeting of December 12th, during the recesses. After the second recess, when you returned, it was clear you had decided to adjourn the meeting, and it was obvious that all the other board members were aware of their roles in removing the items from the agenda. I do want to remind you, during that recess, I did not leave, so I was not in that hallway. But this does lead me to believe there was a discussion in the hallway and that would then violate the Sunshine Law because you discussed the business of this district outside the public view. Number 8, regarding getting shut down at the end and not being able to comment on that September 12th. On September 12th, we had a situation similar where board member Natalie Nash was allowed to comment, and all the board members except Rob and I, you guys had carried on a conversation at the end of the meeting. Yet on December 12th, I was denied that same privilege to speak. I know you just clarified that right now, but I did push my button. I did raise my hand before you actually adjourned that meeting. I do want to point that out. Lastly, we all want the boardroom, the heated discussions to rectify. But at this point, I want to challenge every board member, and I'm actually going to add in the cabinet as well, to step outside your box and to go have a conversation one-on-one with someone that's within our boardroom, that's one of our constituents, one that you would not normally talk with. If you want the heated boardroom to change, then you have to be the one to make that change. It's not going to go any different until we sit down and have one-on-one conversations with our people. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sullivan. Mr. Norwood.
Well, it was a nice Christmas break. I think I did get a chance to go out to a couple of athletic events, and it was a good break. It was nice to come back. It's good to get back and get back to work.
Thank you, Mr. Norwood. Ms. Mash?
I'm excited for another opportunity to work with this school district and this community. I absolutely am just thrilled with the work that is being done in this district, and to have students here that speak so eloquently, that have plans for their lives, how can point to where their life was changed by an individual or by a program. That is what this is about, and it is beautiful, and I'm excited for what is next. And I thank our community for the support that they have shown by trusting us with their tax dollars for the bond and for the mill levy override. I think the students of this district have so many amazing choices. They can join the ROTC program. They can find a STEM school. They can find an art school. Now they can graduate with a CTE certification. It is truly remarkable, and I believe that we are serving the students of this community, whether they be high achievers, whether they be from families that are able to offer a lot of support or not offer a lot of support, whether they're an English language learner. I am so proud to be District 6. I feel like I would like to respond to a few things that you said, Mrs. Sullivan. I'm very disappointed that you didn't take the opportunity to meet with me over the break. I reached out and we have had a really wonderful conversation in the past. I thought that we were, colleagues that could work together and say hard things to each other respectfully. So I'm disappointed that you chose to isolate yourself from us. And many of these things you had an opportunity to mention at the time. Why didn't you say in the work session, why has this changed? Shouldn't we all agree on this? Could we discuss it? Changes of agenda. We had 2 recesses last meeting, and I believe there's ample time for you to get someone's attention or to say that you had some questions. And in terms of speaking to the members of the public, I have offered to meet with people many times. Let's have coffee. Let's go somewhere. And if I can't even meet with my own board member, I'm not real sure that that's going to be helpful. We can't have a conversation if we can't get together. Get together with me. I am reasonable and I'm not afraid of hard discussions. So we do have a code of ethics for our school board members. We all agreed to these at CASB last year. And one of them is communicate to other board members and the superintendent expressions of public reaction to board policies and school programs. This is the first I've heard of any of your opinions on any of this. So I don't know how we can ever come to any sort of understanding if we can't have conversations. So I would recommend that you take your own advice and speak to your own board members so that we can have communication and conversations that can move this district forward. We need a diversity of thought. We have a diversity of thought on this board. We are not all the same. We've had conversations that are hard. We've had conversations that are different. And that is how we can do the best for this community. But we have to have conversations. We have to have the hard things. We have to make changes. So I thank you for your very well thought out comments, and I look forward to our work session on the 27th that we can talk about these things in more detail.
Ms. Bettis.
So I have several things as well, but I want to start my comments tonight by thanking Jill Barnes from Shawshene for inviting me to visit the kindergarten classes this morning and listen to Lisa Hidalgo, who is a meteorologist with Channel 7 News. I can honestly say I had no idea how that all worked. I think we all learned a lot today, so thank you, Ms. Barnes. And then I do have a question for you, Dr. Pilch. We, at the beginning of, I don't know, maybe October or something, we were given a spreadsheet of the events for our specific schools. I'm wondering if we could get an updated one for second semester. That would be helpful as well. Thank you. And then I also have some items that I want to bring to attention, and I'm also going to be citing some board policy. We must have all been on the same wavelength. We are having the retreat in January, so I am very hopeful that we'll be able to discuss some of these. So I would like to first address the meeting on November 14th. The board did approve Dr. Pilch's evaluation. Board members gave input in the evaluation, and board members had the opportunity to view the final evaluation prior to the vote when it was posted in the business agenda the previous week. Director Sullivan did not attend the executive meeting, and as you cited earlier, the executive session is not a special meeting, it is an executive session. So I would just remind you of that. But she did have access to the final evaluation several days in advance of the meeting. And during the vote, Director Sullivan abstained from the vote, citing she was not in attendance at the executive session, and so she needed to abstain. I did not at that time have specific information or in my brain to question this decision as far as voting. Since then, I have done quite a bit of research, and in policy BEDF, Board Governance and Operations under voting methods, it is cited that a member may abstain from voting only if excused by the board for a good cause. In policy BCB, Board Governance and Operations, School Board Member Conflict of Interest, it is stated that a board member who has a personal or private interest in a matter proposed or pending before the board shall disclose such interest to the board, shall not vote on it, and shall not attempt to influence the decisions of others. And then finally, I found information in Robert Rules of Order, which states, while it is the duty of every member who has an opinion on the question to express it by his or her vote, he cannot be compelled to do so. He may prefer to abstain from voting, though he knows the effect is the same as if he voted on the prevailing side. So I would highly encourage us to look at those policies and think through what it means to abstain or recuse from a vote. I also would like to also talk about the meeting on December 12th. And although I wasn't here physically, I do know that the board and Dr. Pilch were taken by surprise when hundreds, if not thousands of papers were dumped on the floor in front of the dais. Dr. Pilch and most board members did not know that the documents were in fact, or did not know what the papers were. And in fact, they were documents, were complaint forms from Board Policy KEC, Public Concerns Complaints about Instructional Resources. This act was an intentional and planned disruption, which escalated into continuing disruption, finally ending in an early adjournment of the meeting. And in the past few weeks since that meeting, I have had several people share with me that in fact, Ms. Sullivan was aware that this intentional disruption in this form would occur during public comments. I have heard this from more than one person, and I certainly hope this is not the case, and maybe you want to address that now or later, Ms. Sullivan. But if in fact that is the case, I am disappointed and disturbed that one of my fellow board members would not give Dr. Pilch and or President Matthews a heads up on what was going to occur. Again, going back to policy, as mentioned earlier, this board is governed by board governance and operation policies. Policy BC, public office is a trust created by confidence which the public places in the integrity of its public officers. To preserve this confidence, it is the desire of the board to operate under the highest ethical standards. Policy BCA, code of ethics for school board members. Communicate to other school board members and the superintendent expressions of public reactions to board policies and school programs. Avoid being placed in a position of conflict of interest and refrain from using my board position for personal or partisan gain. Additionally, we also have established board protocols, which we did review at CASB in November of last year. Board leadership. The board president and vice president of the board will reach out to each member in order to keep members apprised of the events of the district. Board members should contact board leadership or the superintendent when seeking information or reporting concerns. Board outreach. When responding to public comment, press questions, parent replies, etc., board members will be supportive of the district and will use common themes for accurate information. I appreciate the time to share this information. Apparently, we are all focused on the same goal, which is to make sure we are all understanding these policies, but it is going to be very important for us to take time, I believe, on January 27th to make sure we're on the same page so that we can move forward as a collective group making the decisions for the students that we are responsible for in this district. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pappas. Mr. Bentley.
Yeah, I had a good Christmas. It was pretty uneventful and not a lot of work with the schools being in break. I too would like to talk about the last meeting. Disappointment is an understatement. We're all adults. There's a bazillion emails going back and forth that could be court and are open public records that where Dr. Pilch and her team were supporting and facilitating the actual documents that were given. They went through multiple times, went from, here's the document, that wasn't good enough, and we want a fillable PDF. Here's that, there's this fillable PDF. We've had our IT department fix it. There's been steps on and on and on, and we're a nation of laws and policies and systems, and that's the way stuff works. So when they say we hadn't received a complaint, we hadn't received a formal complaint in the appropriate manner as per our policies, and so that was not a lie. There is a lot of emails going back and forth about the books, 100%. But personally, I think that the way that it was handled was a stunt, and I agree there's a lot of angry and upset people with some of the books. But one of the people asked me what changed since I ran, because they thought I'd changed, and it boils down to I got to meet the teachers and the administration, and I pride myself on I kind of shoot from the hip, and I'm a gut feeling type guy, and I just want the public to know that as I've traveled through the schools, I've met with the administration, the teachers, the principals, the superintendent, and all of her cabinet. There is a vast, it's 99% love the children that are in our school districts, and they're doing that out of the kindness of their heart, borderline charity, because all of them could make more money in the private sector. So is there teachers and staff that I don't agree with? Absolutely. Are there some bad apples? Absolutely. That's just human nature. It's going to come and go. But to the public, from me, straight shooter, this district, and I think it's evident in the last time that the public got to use their voice, and that was the election, and a 70% pass rate on the MLO is a landslide, and that does not happen very often. You can go back and look around, but from me to the public, I just want you guys to know that, yeah, there's some contention, there's some stuff. We're trying to cast the biggest net we can to take care of the most kids we can. Are we going to get 100% right? No. Is there going to be mad people? Yes. Left or right or left, it doesn't matter. We're never going to make everybody 100% happy, but they're damn sure trying their hardest, and I want to thank everybody that works here and just let you know that I see it, and I know the board sees it. So thank you guys, and keep up the good work.
Dr. Campos-Spitzy.
Hi, everyone. So maybe the most frequent question I've been asked in the last few weeks is, do you regret your decision to apply for this vacancy position yet? And my answer is no, not at all. Same as Kyle here. I am just, I feel like a fangirl for District 6. I think they've done such great work for our children, and I am so happy to be joining this team. And I'm feeling very positive about 2023. The word disappointment, I feel like I've heard a lot during these comments. The December 12th meeting was my first meeting. I was called disgusting. I just think we're better than that. I think if anything that COVID taught us is to listen, to not just judge a book by its cover, to sit down, to not play politics, to really get down to why we're here. The kids pointed out today that we are volunteers, and our interest really is students first and student achievement. And I know a lot of the citizens here that are sitting here, the taxpayers that are sitting here, are concerned about our children as well. And so we really do have a common goal. And I really hope that we can listen to each other and be humans and know how to, have orderly conduct in a business meeting so that we can have an efficient and productive meeting that meets our goals in District 6. And so thank you again for, the board for appointing me, and I am really excited to be here.
Thank you, Dr. Campos-Spitzy. I didn't have a lot of other comments to make tonight. I was hoping to get out relatively quickly. I did want to see some of the national championship game that's on tonight, but I have been told that I should not bother worrying about trying to get home for that. So if somebody's checking the score, maybe that has gotten out of hand. I'm not sure. Ms. Sullivan, I will try to address some of your questions, and I can't address them all, right? Because I don't have all the information in front of me, and I can't even process all those questions. you could have sent those to me. I mean, if you weren't willing to meet, and I like Ms. Mash, have tried to meet with you, tried to have you and meet with Dr. Pilch and I. That is not a violation of the Sunshine Law. This is standard practice and has been standard practice for this board and for boards all over this country. We don't make any decisions apart from public view. This is simply a way for us to hear from board members ahead of a work session or ahead of this meeting so that we can actually set an agenda and so that we can actually get thorough answers to you so that it doesn't sound like we're misleading someone in those questions. So you said that one of your first questions was how are some people supposed to get information if we said we've stopped emailing them, right? There are two people that I have told that we're no longer going to correspond over email. You also know this because you're copied on these emails, that in that email I also say, we are glad to sit down and meet with you, right? That's true? Yeah? Also, as Mr. Bentley has stated, these people receive the documents. I have not actually stopped emailing with those people. You know this as well because you're copied on these emails. I've emailed that person to say, if there's a legitimate question about board practice, I answer those questions. And you know that I have not completely stopped emailing with these two individuals. I simply mean that we're going to stop having an email correspondence and trying to resolve these issues over email. And we have offered to meet with both of these two individuals. That's true, yes? So, as Mr. Bentley has stated, the people, when we first heard of books in September, it was the first this board had heard that there were any complaints about books. And so emails, we did after that meeting receive a list of books that includes the books that were challenged at the last board meeting. Then, as Mr. Bentley said, the person who sent that list received the complaint form. And that's all that's ever needed to happen was for that person to fill out a complaint form on that, any particular book that they wanted to challenge. And that's all that's needed to happen. But instead, what happened was someone took that complaint form, pre-populated it, which means filled it out for everybody else, and then took it around and gathered a lot of signatures for that. And then rather than sending that to a principal, which is what it says on the form, right? Or sending it to our director of curriculum instruction, they took all of those forms and dumped those in the floor, right? And it certainly caused a disruption that we're all still talking about today. And none of that needed to happen, right? That form could have been filled out for those books in the first week of October. And I'm not asking, I'm not asking you to respond, but I mean that is what has happened. So if someone says we did not respond, we are responding. We take every criticism seriously. We have worked to solve every problem. We have offered to meet with any number of people. Dr. Pilch and I have a meeting. I think we've heard from, in the last 4 months, about 12 people who've been critical of this district. And I actually went through and counted. I looked at all 6 previous board meetings. I looked at the speakers at this board meeting. There's a total of 12 people who've been critical of this district. One of those, Dr. Pilch and I will meet with tomorrow morning. And we have continually offered to meet with people, as we've offered to meet with you, because as you've said, this is the only way that issues get resolved. But I will say also that I am disappointed that you did not let us know. That you knew that demonstration was going to take place, that you knew something was happening, And it puts everyone in a difficult situation when you refuse to speak to us, when you refuse to let us know what's happening. I appreciate that you didn't meet with Ms. Mash or I. The number of meetings that I've had since that meeting, I can't even total the hours. For the amount of work that meeting created for the administrators in this room, I don't even want to begin to count. Right? We're over 100, maybe close to 200. Dr. Pilch, I have no idea of just the hours totaling all and taking care of all those complaint forms. That doesn't include time that we have spent with attorneys. That doesn't include time that Dr. Pilch has spent with our security. I think it probably created work for just about everybody in this room, and it didn't have to happen. It did not have to be that way. We had sent the form. All that ever needed to happen was the form needed to be filled out. And I will say, there's nothing this board can do until that form is filled out. We now can act on those forms, but this board could take, and our administration could take, no action until December 12th when we received forms. And that's been clear too. And this board can't take any action on any book because we have a policy. And if you would like to change the policy, Ms. Sullivan, you can make a motion to change a policy. All it takes at this dais is a motion and a second, right? That's all it takes. So make a motion, have a second for the motion, and if something is problematic about that policy, change the policy. But until we change this policy, we're going to live by the policy. We have to live by the policy. And so this board will not see any book unless, once that book has worked its way all the way through the process, it is appealed to the Board of Education. And that is legally all we can do. And so I hope that's clarifying, but I promise you, and I promise our public, we're not trying to deceive anyone. We're not trying to put anybody off. We've offered again and again and again to meet with people. And again, you know this as well. I can pull up someone who hasn't spoken at our board meeting, but sent an email recently. And if I can find that, I don't think I can. But essentially, I sends an email, says, since the last board meeting is critical. I sent an email back and said, Ms. Pappas, Dr. Pilch, and I would be glad to sit down with you, right? And you received that email, and you received the plot reply where it says, all you want are meetings, 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 only to lie to us again. I don't know how to say it more clearly. We're not, I don't even know what we would be lying about. This is the policy. You can go look it up on our website. So we're not lying to anyone. We're glad to meet with anyone, and like I said, we'll be meeting with someone tomorrow morning. But I would appreciate if you would let us know your concerns, and as Ms. Pappas has brought out, you have an obligation to let us know your concerns. Right? That's part of working on this team. So thank you for bringing this to our attention, and that'll conclude our board member comments and reports. So Dr. Pilch, we are now to your superintendent's report. So would you please be so kind as to give us your report?
Thank you, President Matthews. First, I want to do something I did not get the opportunity to do last month when we adjourned our meeting early, and that is to introduce to you all our new Director of Transportation. You did approve his hire last month when you approved the personnel agenda, but we did not get to introduce to you Mr. Chad Hawley. Chad, stand up and give a wave. Yeah. Now, and I want to talk about Chad just a little bit, because I'm really proud of him, and I'm proud of the team who helped me to select him as our transportation director. As you all know, Susan Floyd, who's been a longtime transportation director here for District 6, retired and is moving out of state, or has moved out of state. Chad was right there in the wings. Chad has been with us here in the district since 2009. Prior to coming to the district, he worked as a production team leader at Eastman Kodak, so he had a whole other career prior to coming to District 6. He also has some interesting background that I think is beneficial to the district, and that is that he was a detention deputy at the Weld County Sheriff's Office for a period of time. This is actually his second run at District 6. He came with us for a while as a bus driver and then left, and then came back as a bus driver, worked up as a foreman at the bus department and transportation department, and now has been selected as our transportation director. And he has hit the ground running. He's doing a fine job. We're really excited to have him in the seat. He has his coursework at University of Northern Colorado was in kinesiology. I'm not sure how that fits into the transportation department, but I'm sure it must come in handy somewhere there. But again, welcome to Chad. Thank you for your deep dedication to District 6 that you've given now for over a decade, and we're excited to have you in this new role. And I know that the folks out at the Transportation Department are equally excited to have you in this role. So congratulations and thank you, Chad. Ms. Pappas mentioned Shawshene Elementary and Lisa Hidalgo, the meteorologist, the morning meteorologist from Channel 7, being out at Shawshene and working with kindergartners. My understanding is while she was there, she was able to share about her job and her career experiences, her college education and her degrees. She talked about weather balloons and other kinds of weather issues that we face. And the exciting part is there will be a piece on Friday morning at 6:45 a.m. on Channel 7, where I think we'll get to sneak a peek of some of our Shawshene students waving, and Lisa will also have an opportunity to mention her visit to Shawshene Elementary. Great job, Jill, to you and your staff who are able to get Miss Hidalgo out there to get in front of those students, and maybe we have some kindergartners from Shawshene who want to be meteorologists. Then the final thing I wanted to share was that I said this a little bit earlier, but I really don't want us to take lightly the kind of recognitions we had tonight with our Marine Corps Junior ROTC being in the top 20% of programs in the nation. And the major said this about there's programs that have been in effect for decades that never get a recognition like this, and he is absolutely right. You all know I've worked in other school districts, and I've never seen a junior ROTC program get the kind of accolades and recognition that the program here at Northridge gets. So just super proud of them. And, I'm so glad they could be here with us tonight. It was a lot of fun for those of us who were at CASB to see them down there and to have them presenting the colors at the opening session at the Colorado Association of School Boards. It was really a nice honor for them. And I understand they had a very good time while they were there. And then again, the recognition for the Bright Spot Award. Mr. Eisenhower and team, just know we're so proud of you and so proud of the work that you do there. And soon you will have a new school. By August, we'll have a new school out there, and we will welcome 6th graders into that new school. So that is it for my update. President Matthews, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pilch. Next on our agenda is our public participation. And there's something I want to read to everyone. The board welcomes comments of community members and has dedicated a portion of each business meeting agenda to provide an opportunity for the community to present brief comments to the board. All speakers are limited to 2 minutes for comments. The board typically does not engage in discussion or provide an immediate response to the input, but will ask district staff to respond as appropriate. Persons wishing to address the board in a business meeting must complete the electronic public participation form by 12 p.m. on the day of the meeting, or call the secretary to the board at 970-348-6021 prior to 12 p.m. on the day of the meeting. Speakers will be heard in the order in which they signed up to speak, with priority given to students and parents of students enrolled in the district. Written testimony or speaker handouts must be submitted to the board secretary, not to individual board members. The board is committed to providing a safe environment where all members of the school board community or school community are treated with dignity and respect, and expects all speakers to exercise their speech rights responsibly. That means that speakers' remarks must be suitable for an audience that includes kindergarten through 12th grade students. All students and those in attendance, or all speakers and those in attendance, shall conduct themselves in a non-disruptive manner. Cheering, snapping, clapping, and other distractions are not allowed during or upon completion of any public comment. All speakers and those in attendance who disturb order may be asked to leave. Defamatory or threatening remarks are always out of order. Speakers should be mindful of profane or obscene remarks, and their appropriateness for the audience includes in kindergarten, for an audience that includes kindergarten through 12th grade students. The presiding officer may terminate the speaker's privileges of address if, after being called to order, the speaker persists in improper conduct or remarks. Signs, banners, and other distracting items are not allowed in the boardroom. The board president will ask you to leave materials outside the room, or you may be asked to leave non-disruptive signs, posters, displays, or other visual depictions are allowed in the board meeting insofar as the items are no larger than 8.5 by 11 standard unit of paper. Video or audio recordings may not be played during public comment unless prior written approval is given, and the board encourages the discussion of confidential topics such as personnel or individual student issues to be conducted in private as an executive session or otherwise governed by the board policy. So I know that's extensive, but I wanted to read that for everyone to understand our policies, since we've spent so much time talking about those tonight. And so tonight, our first speaker is Ms. Stacy Castile. She's a parent of students enrolled in District 6. Welcome, Ms. Castile. We are glad you're here tonight. You'll have 2 minutes.
On November 17th, 2022, during a District Accountability Committee meeting, Deirdre Pilch referred to myself and another mom as disgruntled moms while addressing the entire meeting. I realized she was right. I am disgruntled. When I sat down to collect my thoughts on what I wanted to say tonight, I wanted to detail all the wrongs the school district has done against me to explain why I am disgruntled. Whether it was a Billy Martinez staff member using district access to locate my child at a different school, resulting in a lunchroom monitor going to the school and trying to make contact with my child without my permission, or the time when the school psychologist attempted to report me to social services immediately following a tearful phone call begging for advice for some struggles my child was experiencing. Or when my child was tested for speech therapy, and even though her testing did show she qualifies for services through the district, the speech pathologist highly recommended I take her to services myself to avoid the district from having to pay for it. And this is just a few of the issues, and that is just one student of 22,000. I am disgruntled, but instead of sitting here and trying to get through to any of you, I've decided to take matters into my own hands and run for school board. I am officially declaring my candidacy for school board director this November of 2023 so that I can be the change so many parents, students, and teachers need in this and deserve in this district. To close with a quote, "The secret of change is to focus all your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new." Socrates. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Castile. Next on our speakers list is Ms. Sarah Carlson, resident of District 6. Welcome, Ms. Carlson. Thank you for being here. You'll have 2 minutes.
Very good. Thank you. Good evening. My name is Sarah Carlson, and I will be speaking on the books being challenged, specifically the follow-up message from the Board of Education leadership that was published a few days after the last December 12th meeting and written by President Michael Matthews and Vice President Terry Pappas. I was unable to attend the December 12th meeting, Unfortunately, I did send my forms with the representatives who were here and presented them to you all. Mine were handwritten, and the public message that was put out is inaccurate in that, quote, "The forms appear to have been pre-filled, copied, and signed by about 180 individuals. I filled out multiple forms for one book in particular that I had read attending UNC to get my degree, and I was very much disgusted by that book. So I filled out multiple forms, handwritten and everything, and by you folks stating that they were pre-filled out and copied, I can tell you folks didn't even see my forms, let alone read them. And you reported that 180 individuals may have signed. The Tribune reported over 200 individuals signed. According to the American Library Association, which tracks books all over the nation being challenged, they report about 82 to 97% of all challenges do remain unreported. Based on this, myself and many others who I know who could not attend the December 12th meeting, we sent representatives to voice our concerns and deliver the forms, and what did they get but criticism and disrespect in the form of your public news brief. And since they represent me, you were disrespectful and critical to me. I do not currently have kids in the district, but mine are rapidly approaching the age where we're gonna have to make a decision. If the books remain in play and this level of disrespect continues to come from the board, I can guarantee you they will not be in District 6. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Carlson. Next speaking tonight is Ms. Kay Broderius, resident in District 6. Thank you, Ms. Broderius, for being here. Welcome, and you'll have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you all for the opportunity to speak. Tonight I'm speaking in behalf of myself and my husband, Dr. Bruce Broderius, who we both have concerns about the opinions expressed at previous board meetings and the previous speakers. I don't think they have taken into account the fact that the First Amendment protects the right to receive and share ideas, including educators and students' right to receive and exchange information and knowledge. Freedom of expression protects our right to read, learn, and share ideas free from a viewpoint-based censorship. I believe that book bans are misguided attempts to dismiss our right to explore ideas, gain new perspective, and think for ourselves. I think that we have a right to honest, open dialogue about life's issues and problems. I would like to take this opportunity to express our appreciation and support for the Superintendent Pilch, for President Matthews, the volunteers who are elected to the Board of Education, the staff of Weld District 6. Teachers have a special appreciation need. They put in hours of untold work, and I think that we need to applaud their work. Having been a teacher myself, and my husband a UNC professor and school board member, we fully understand the 100 hours of untold work and dedication that our district teachers.
Thank you, Ms. Broderius.
Thank you. And thank you, teachers.
Next up, we have Ms. Christina Kaufman. Thank you for being here tonight, Ms. Kaufman.
Thank you.
Welcome, and you'll have 2 minutes.
All right, thank you. President Matthews, board members, and Dr. Pilch. I'm here to thank our well-trained and caring educators for the work they're doing with and for our children. I also thank Dr. Matthews, the board, Dr. Pilch, and all the support staff at all levels at District 6. Through the efforts of all these people, our school district continues to grow, and it successfully shows performance growth as well. It is vital that our community supports District 6 and works within the parameters of courteous conduct and common good through proper public discourse. There are ways to communicate which lead to understanding when there are disagreements in this system. Vitriol and throwing papers only create hard feelings and waste time that should be directed at educating our children. I wish you all a good new year, free from further outbursts and distractions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kaufman. Next speaking tonight, we have Ms. Sonia Miller, resident of District 6. Welcome, Ms. Miller. You have 2 minutes.
I've had to ask an attorney to look at this speech that I'm going to speak tonight. You'd be ill-advised to interrupt my speaking time for any of the content in this address. I've written you a poem. 'Twas the night before the school board meeting, and with parents in the mix, not a tyrant slept easy in all of D6. The citizens arrived, excited to speak to the people we elected to sit in those seats. One time you got careless and forgot to unplug the laptop attached to the big screen above. Your email left open for the public to read how my access to the building you plan to impede. Our students can't read or write or do math, but they're probably vaccinated thanks to Miss Mash. You see, Mash is a nurse who sits on our board. She loves needles and Pfizer, and she cries about porn. If her tears were sincere, then we would have seen some action from her and the rest of the team. Complaint forms were needed before you would look at the perverted stories inside of your books. So we signed and delivered 5,000 complaints. It's your lack of action that caused all this angst. The forms were not welcomed, and the public outlash was disruptive and swift when Pilch called them all trash. Little Miss Pilch is way overpaid. How much, you might ask? I'm unhappy to say $1,200 a day, a cost to the district of $300K. Who decided she'd be superintendent of schools? Funded by extortion and praised by the fools. You say our children are your number one, but you mask them, you jab them, you swab them for funds. Pastor Matthews smiles and fidgets when we bring up the devil's digits. Our logo is branded with 666. We want it removed. We demand this be fixed. To you, it's a game, but you don't want to play. You'd rather just take public comment away. To viewers out there who watch from afar, you miss all the action. Why not get in the car? They'll always censor what you need to see if you're watching from your TV. If justice were swift, you'd have already been arrested for the offenses against our children. It's coming. To the doctors and nurses and teachers and pastors, you will not escape the upcoming disaster.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. Next speaking tonight, we have Mr. Michael Kyle. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. This is Kyle?
Yep.
Okay. Welcome, Mr. Kyle. You'll have 2 minutes.
So it's kind of ironic that Merriam-Webster's word for the year of 2022 is gaslighting, because that's what I see coming from this board. Behavior that's mind manipulating, grossly misleading, and downright deceitful. The KEC-E forms that were dropped off were done so by policy. It just so happens that January 6, 2023, you revised policy again to change it to where we need to email it or drop it off at a different person who, at this time, I don't know exactly, but you change the policies, I don't know, it seems pretty constantly to your advantage. Every time something happens, you change the policy, just like the wording at the beginning, keeping it K through 12 appropriate. So, you know, the policy changing, we try to follow policy to the T, but you change it. So it's kind of hard to do that, but we'll stay on top of the policy and we'll, you know, keep going forward with what we're doing. Let's see here. We've had meetings. My wife did 75 minutes with Miss Dattery, and she was told over and over that there's no sexually explicit material in our libraries, that there was no library database whatsoever. If we wanted to inquire, we had to find that out. And it's all on audio recording, so there's nothing to contest about that. The fact that pornographic material can be read by children, going into a library, just picking something up, and you know, you could flip to a page and stumble on. Some of these books I've looked at, I open a random page and it's disgustful. You know, I have to be 18 years of age to go into a porn shack or whatever to pick up a Penthouse or a Playboy, which a lot of this stuff reads as. The people on this board who are medical, they should know the damage that it does to children seeing this at a young age.
Thank you, Mr. Kyle. Next tonight speaking, we have Mr. Steve Teets. Mr. Teets is a resident of District 6. Thank you for being here, Mr. Teets, and you'll have 2 minutes.
First of all, for the record, my name is Steve Teets. I'm from Greeley. First of all, I want to encourage the students that they should join JROTC or even ROTC in school. I heard the officer telling it, and we had ROTC when I was in school. That was a few years ago. But anyway, I just wanted to encourage the students to do that. Also, too, a few months ago, I asked you if you had a dress code, and somebody gave me a list of your dress code, and yet the students, some of the students don't follow the dress code, especially number 2, 7, 9, and number 12 on the dress code. I can read those to you. I don't think I'll have the time, but I'll try. Tattoos, clothing, and accessory that display drugs, including any marijuana reference, sexual innuendos, and inappropriate language. Well, on the city bus that you probably should probably write it. And alcohol, tobacco, products, violence, and so forth and so on. Then number 7 is no exposure undergarments, inappropriate sheer, tight, and low-cut clothing that bare or expose in traditional and so forth and so on. And the way they dress, in fact, I saw recently somebody that had pajama bombers on that got on the bus from a bus stop in front of a school. But the dress code, you wouldn't believe sometimes the ones that get on the bus. And number 12, it says no red, blue Dickies or South Pole brand pants, shorts, and so some of the students sometimes I think need to investigate. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Teets. Next speaking tonight, we have Mr. David Meek. Mr. Meek is not here. Next, then, we have Mr. Matt Emmons, resident of District 6. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly.
You are.
Thank you for being here, Mr. Emmons. Welcome.
Thank you. Ms. Taylor Sullivan, thank you. You're a rock star. I hope the rest of you listen to her. Regardless where the miscommunication occurred, listen to her, because she's correct. Secondly, the public is still waiting for an apology for Ms. Jamie Weber and Ms. Sonia Miller for telling her 7 times on September 12th that there was no pornographic material found in your libraries, which was later confirmed the next day by the Greeley Tribune. So we're still expecting that apology. Third, I'd like to comment on the security. I have attended as well as watched dozens of these meetings. And I am blown away. Where do you think that extra security is needed? Not once have I witnessed anything that would lead me to believe that somebody's physical is going to be physically attacked or that they are in danger in any physical matter. I've never seen it. So to put these speakers that we see out in the hallways and these extra cameras and these extra security guards, I see that as a waste of your guys' money that could be going to children. Then, everybody's up here arguing about arguing. Let's focus on the kids. These kids should not have access to these books. And again, we want to clarify, we're not asking for a ban, we're asking for parental consent. And then third, it is pretty evident to me that you still do not hold these documents that were presented to you last time with any regard, because twice tonight they have been referred to as dumped on the floor. That's not the case. That was the only way that we could get them to your attention. I received the letter, and you said you don't even have a committee in place to figure out what these books go to. So you say you don't lie to us, but you just did like 15 minutes ago.
Thank you, Mr. Emmons. Next tonight, we have Miss Angelica Weiss. Thank you for being here, Ms. Weiss.
Just
Welcome. You
for
have
anybody
2
in the
minutes.
back, we're not banning books, we're asking them to have parental consent, just like an R-rated movie would need parental consent. No bans. So Mr. Matthews and Ms. Pappas continue to tell the public that they have received hundreds of emails from teachers and residents who are afraid to come to these meetings because of perceived safety concerns. Your legal counsel has told me that there's an abundance of emails that will take 5 hours to go through before they can be released to me, costing me $134.32. And my free hour was already used up by just pulling these emails, 10 days worth of emails I was asking for. But then legal counsel today informed us that there is no list of these emails, so I don't know if he's playing word games with us or if there are no emails, but I would just like to, it's because of these emails that you claim that we have, the district has spent an unknown amount of tax dollars money on hiring more security and putting up more cameras and microphones all over the district building. And therefore, this has now become a matter of public interest and a matter of transparency. Under Colorado law, this board can waive the cost of the core request. I'm asking you to waive the fee so that the public can see this board wants to be transparent and keep the public informed on what the complaints are that you keep referring to. Now, this would go a long way with building the trust of the community, and the public deserves to know what these complaints are. And on another note, tonight you talk about diversity of thought and stuff. There are mothers who wanted to speak tonight who did not have driver's licenses, who were denied to speak. And this needs to be addressed. I wrote an email asking how this is going to go for people who do not have that documentation, and I did not get a reply yet today. And I would like a reply from anybody, legal, I don't care, but that is unacceptable that mothers from this district are being denied speaking here tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Weiss. Next tonight, we have Mr. Tom Norton. Welcome, Mayor Norton. Thank you for being here tonight. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to speak this evening, and Mayor, that's a slip of the tongue. Michael, President of the board, and members of the board, I come here just to give a kind of a final wrap-up report on the campaign that was run to do the mill levy override. I know most of you are familiar with and obviously have been informed about the fact that we would pass that mill levy override by nearly 70%, which I think is typical of the number of people that I talked to during the campaign, which were supportive of what the district is doing and what you're doing as board members. So I know you've heard a lot of complaints tonight, and I understand that. That's what the open dialogue is all about. I commend you for having the discussion with Board Member Sullivan and the kinds of things that you need to bring forward to have that discussion, and you know that's a start in the right direction to bring those forward. So I'm just here to tell you the majority of the people that I talk to are very much in favor of the board and the things that you're doing. There's always going to be some difficulty in being sure that the information that you put out is not only transparent, but understanding that coming from two different opinions. So it's hard to make that communication at times, but I know you're working hard at getting that done, and particularly Ms. Taylor, Rob Norwood, and Kyle Bentley, who are newer members. And I'm sure, Doctor, you're going to get your opportunities to get through this. But thank you very much. Very much appreciate your help in making that happen, and hopefully that'll carry us forward for a number of years.
Thank you, Mr. Norton. We appreciate you being here tonight. That concludes our public participation.
President Matthews, may I ask a question real quick? I was wondering if Dr. Pilch could share with us the status of the book review committee.
I'm happy to. Thank you for asking the question. So we actually had a review committee that piloted the process. We have not, in my time here in the district and any of the time that Dr. Dattery's been here, ever had a complaint that made it to the district office that wasn't resolved at the building level. And so as a result of that, we don't have a standing book review committee in the district. As soon as a complaint is coming, we, activate a committee. President Matthews is correct in saying that we began to hear some concern about books and a need to know what the process would be last fall. And during that time, as we were working through getting the public complaint form put together and out to individuals who were asking for that, during that time, I made the decision to put together a committee with the leadership of Wes Tuttle to actually pilot a review process. And so that committee did meet over the last 5 to 6 weeks or so and go through the process so that we could learn from that and identify what else we might need to do in the process. My understanding from Mr. Tuttle is that all of those individuals have agreed to continue as the book review committee. However, the recommendation coming out of this pilot is that we also look to add a few more members to that book review committee. So, for example, we didn't have a former graduate or a current college student that went to District 6 schools on that committee. We didn't have as many parents as we would like, or community members as we would like on the committee, we think, based on that review process. And so we're still working to finalize the new committee. They will be up and running very soon. We will post all that information on the district website. We do have a new web page that we posted on the district website that will update folks on the review process and which books are being reviewed and what that timeline is. Will be posted there, so folks should check back to that. We do expect to have that website fully up by Friday of this week. Lindsay, is that correct? I know you're working on that, thank you. But we do expect to have that up and open to the public by Friday so that folks can go there to see where we are in the process and to see what the timeline is. The first book to be reviewed will be the book Beloved. We made that decision based on that we had the highest number of complaint forms related to Beloved. So Beloved by Toni Morrison will be the first book that the review committee will consider.
Thank you, Dr. Pilch. Thank you for the update. We appreciate it. Next on our agenda tonight is our consent agenda. And this is an action item that will need a motion.
I move that the Board of Education of Greeley Evans School District 6 approves items as presented on the consent agenda and authorizes the officers to sign any and all contracts.
Thank you both. Is there any discussion on the consent agenda?
I did just want to bring to the public's attention on the personnel report. I always enjoy seeing who's in our district. Sometimes there's folks I know. But I'm excited that we are hiring 4 bilingual interpreters, 2 of which I believe may speak Burmese and Rohingya. And I'm just really glad to know that our communities that speak, perhaps a language that's difficult to find an interpreter will now have that opportunity here at our district to be utilized during parent-teacher conferences or other such meetings so that they can be sure to get the same information that our English and Spanish speakers. There's also 2 Spanish-speaking interpreters. So anyway, glad to see that, yet another resource for our families in our community.
Thank you, Ms. Mesh. Is there any other comment on the consent agenda? Seeing none, Ms. Lemon, will you give us a vote, please?
Director Bentley?
Aye.
Director Campos-Fitzy? Aye. Director Mesh?
Aye.
Director Matthews?
Aye.
Director Norwood?
Aye.
Director Pappas?
Aye.
Director Sullivan?
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you, Ms. Lemon. Finally, on our agenda tonight is public notice of meetings and designated posting sites. And this is something we do once a year to post where our meetings are going to be. And so we will need an action item, though, to proceed.
I move, go ahead.
I move that the Board of Education of Greeley Evans School District 6 approves the district website as the designated posting site for the public notice of meetings.
Second.
Thank you both. Is there any discussion on the motion? Not seeing any. So, Ms. Lemon, will you give us a vote, please?
Director Bentley?
Aye.
Director Campos Spitzy?
Aye.
Director Mash?
Aye.
Director Matthews?
Aye.
Director Norwood?
Aye.
Director Pappas?
Aye.
Director Sullivan?
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you, Ms. Lemon. Well, that is all the business that we have tonight. We thank you for being here. I do want to let you know, we do need everyone in the room to exit very, very rapidly. We can't have everybody hanging out in this room, but we do need everyone to leave immediately as the meeting is adjourned. So this meeting is now adjourned.